is kind of cool. It is not too late, but if you are not already signed up for EXPCon, you should be. And you can still get cheap flights. You can still get really relatively inexpensive tickets because it's all about learning, which is the topic for the conversation today. As we do every time we do these mastermind calls, this is probably one of my favorite topics. And it's also the one that I struggle with the most. Now, Chris, I know you're walking, you got a bunch of stuff going on. You're going to EXPCon, so I'm pretty sure you and I have a walk scheduled at some point. We'll figure out the day.
Absolutely.
And I also want you to stick around. I'm going to give 3 examples. This is just kind of a little foreshadowing to what's coming. I'm going to give 3 examples of a work schedule that is a completely manageable work schedule. And we're going to kind of dissect those. But I also wanted to see how that portrays into how you would manage your work schedule, because I purposefully didn't put that in there since it's not my sweet spot. But I know that there's some great success that you've had. So I'm really interested in your feedback when that comes. You'll be like, oh, I know what he's talking about. And we'll get to it. Today is emerging agent. That means this is for new agents to real estate and also old in the tooth, long in the tooth agents like myself who have been doing this for a while. And the reason that today particularly is for everybody, today's topic is time management. Today's topic is making sure we're doing what we need to be doing. And I'm going to go through a lot of tools, but we're also going to cover today, what does a work week look like, or what would it look like if we committed a certain amount of time to being really on purpose? So real quickly, usually do about 30 minutes of where I'm actually going to do some talking. Then I want to answer as many questions as we possibly have, examples, feedback, stuff like that, because this is really all about y'all. If you have questions, something that triggers, put it in the chat box, raise your hand. We are here to make sure that you get the answers. And then the last 30 minutes, as we're going into kind of the after party, 100% about anything having to do with real estate. I mean, any topic at all. Okay. And that's purposeful when we do these. Let's jump right into it. Most of us have never worked for ourselves. And that's pretty much a statement of fact when you get into real estate. There's a few exceptions, of course, but as a general rule, we've always had a job we'd go to. We have somebody who's responsible for us, meaning we've never been employers or our own boss. And your own boss is a really challenging thing to do. Now, with the people that I could see on camera, show of hands, if you've worked for somebody else, did you have a 2 or 3 hour workday, or usually a 6 to 8 hour workday? If it's 6 to 8 hour workday, raise your hand. If that's what you've accustomed to in the past, something to that effect. Okay, cool. And the reason I say this is because even myself, and I've been doing this for, 2 decades now, it is very difficult for me to put in 8 hours of real productive work when I'm the one managing myself. So if you find that you're not able to do 8 hours of work, you probably have 2 challenges. First, what should I be doing? And second, the fridge is right there. And, we're really kind of into this TV show. I forgot what it's called. Below Deck. That's it. We're into Below Deck. I literally spent 2 hours yesterday watching Below Deck in the middle of the day. So you're not guilty if your distraction pulls you off. We're going to try and rein that in a little bit today. Now, I wrote this down because I thought this was important. By the way, the syllabus that I'm going with, I'm going to show you guys this real quick. That looks like the right one. This syllabus, which is covering everything, I'll be sharing the link in just a couple of seconds. Actually, sharing the link right now. And let me make sure it's unrestricted. Anyone with the link? Copy. I'll put that in the chat. The reason I want you to have it is there are some links in here that we're going to go back and forth on, and I wanted to make sure that you have the availability to grab this if you want it. It is the syllabus that I go through whenever we do this class. Poor time management means you're unable to see the big picture and plan accordingly. You should take a look at the projects you need to complete for the month, the week, and the day. In this case, it says project, but I want you guys to consider that we're also talking objective too. When I look at my week, my month, and my year, I look at how many transactions do I want to close, because ultimately I can quantify my real estate transactional business by number of units as opposed to GCI. And I would challenge you all to consider that. That's what I want you to consider too. How many units do you want to close over the course of a year? That's our true grade. but it also will give you the definition of if I say I want to close 12, I know I need to close one per month. We can go with our big project or our big plan, one per month, and then work backwards on what's involved in that. We're going to get to the good part, and here's the foreshadowing. I'm going to challenge everybody that if you just give 3 hours a day of really focused work, and I'm even going to break it down, that 3 hours a day, you will reach any goal you personally put out right now. And if you're brave and you happen to know what your number is, and it doesn't matter if you're an emerging agent or otherwise, what is your number of how many units you want to sell over the course of a year? If you had a great year, I want to sell X number of homes. Don't worry about the price point. That takes care of itself. Put it in the chat. I'd like to see some examples. What's your dream? And remember, safe spot here, so I wouldn't worry too much about what anybody's going to say. Now, the challenge is, if we were to only work 3 hours a day, love that, Joey. That is awesome. Thank you for putting in such a strong number. That's great. 50, 60, 50. I can't read. Thank you, Robert. Now, this is the fun part. The average commission in the United States, rounded up, is going to be around $10,000. So it makes it very easy for us. Now, is that accurate everywhere? Absolutely not. If you're in California or you're in Miami, certain parts of Miami, it can be much higher. Certain parts of New York, certain parts of, like if you go to Buffalo, the average home sale is $200,000. But if you go down into the city or the suburbs or Long Island, it's $1 million plus. So it varies, but we're going to use 10 as the number, 10,000. Love that. Heather's got a great number. Steph's got a great number. So we're looking at a couple 100,000, 2,400, 400,000. That's kind of a really cool thing when you think about that. Now, what I'm going to challenge everybody with is take your personal number, multiply that by 10,000, or if you feel your area is a little higher or perhaps a little bit lower, that's cool. And then write yourself a check for what your average day's work is worth. So I have this one. It's right. You can see it. That's mine. Okay. It says on the bottom, 1 day's work. I don't know if y'all can see that. But that's what my number looks like for my average day. That's it, $3,750. So I took what I know I'm going to make, and then I divided that out. But here's the thing. I have a 3-hour workday. And that's the fun part we're going to talk about right now. Imagine, if you would, having a 3-hour workday. Anybody raise your hand that if you put your number in there, raise your hand. I'm not going to beat you up, I promise, but I want to talk about how you're building your goals. And I'd love to use somebody with an example. Actually, I'll just use Tiffany if nobody else wants to raise their hand. Tiffany, do you have a number of families you want to sell over the course of a year? You're now involved in this class.
Yes.
How many?
And yes. Good morning.
Good morning. How many do you want to sell? How many homes do you want to sell per year?
40.
40 homes. Awesome. So regular math, we use $10,000. That's $400,000 that you would have per year in income that'd be created from that. And if you work 48 weeks a year, so take 400. I don't know if you know this. I was just talking about this. This is my average hourly check, how much I make for a day's work, because I work a 3-hour workday. That's really what you're getting paid on, is 3 hours worth of work. And I'll show you how this works. So you have 400 divided by 48 weeks, because we take at least a month off, divided by 15. I did multiply. Sorry.
What it was is that he saw that my number was bigger than his number. He's like, oh, no, I did something wrong. I'm just kidding.
I'm blind as a bat. Your daily pay based on what you want to do is $1,666 per day for 3 hours worth of work. Okay, that's for 40. It can be less, it can be more, but think about that. That's $1,600 a day times 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year. Use that. And if you're only going to work 40 weeks a year, okay, that's totally cool. If you want to take 3 months off over the course of the year, I'm down on that. But you've got to remember, you're going to have to put in the work. But now, are you working at the highest level? I know that if I'm really productive, it's worth $3,750 per 3-hour workday. Let's talk about a 3-hour workday, because remember, this is all about time management. So we're going to get into tools and skills of time management. But the first thing I want to get into is motivating you that time management is absolutely doable. And this is the interactive part. I'm going to talk about 3 different activities that follow 3 different real estate goals, or 3 different real estate projects, from lead generation, from database, open house, and prospecting. And Chris, now you know why this fits in with you. With 3 hours a day, with what you do as an expert, I'm sure you could, I'm just looking for feedback in social media. With 3 hours of full commitment, would you see the results work too? I'm going to share something, and let me break this down in the hourlies for everybody so you can see it. So in here, you'll see the 15-hour week, and it's in blue, and you can actually go to this document. So I'll pull it up, and hopefully I can make this really big so we can look at it. Yeah, I can. All right. So the very first example, can you all see that pretty clearly? Thumbs up if you can. Right on. First example, if we're going to work 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week, and we have a goal, let's use Tiffany's as an example. And our goal is that we want to do 40 data. We want to do 40 transactions, and we're going to pick that from our database using that. So most of us know what's involved in our database. Most of us know what a database looks like. If you every day called through your database with great notes and great added follow-ups, things that need to be done, if you spent 30 minutes blocked time, 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year, commenting on the people you spoke to in social media, engaging in social media, pardon me, and writing handwritten notes to the people you spoke to, adding people. So in that 30 minutes, you're going to do some social media posts, some handwritten notes, and add at least one person to your database on a regular basis. 30 minutes of content creation segregated out within your database. What I mean by that, I'm going to stop the share for just a second. What I mean by that is you keep coming from contributions. Now there's something in here, and it's called Google Alerts. And I want to show you how this works, because no matter what you're doing, this is going to be a tool that you're probably going to want to come back to again and again. I'm going to do it after I'm done with this segment, this particular one, before I jump to the next one. So let's go back to this. And that's why you see this Google Alerts in here. And I will do that in just a second. If you spent 30 minutes following up based on past calls and needs, and you spent 30 minutes working on your business WOB projects. Now, here's the part that I have a question for. If you invested that time, Tiffany, where you literally had 3 hours blocked off with your database and the people you know, continuing to add to it, communicate with them, 30 minutes on working on projects, which would entail probably a weekly or a monthly micro party that you're inviting and calling to and everything else, do you think you would get some amazing results with that?
Yes, I'd probably do more than the 40.
Very possibly. Now, it may not happen right away because it's database, which is totally cool, but you build such a ongoing with there. You even have time in there, and everybody should. They have time in there for really improving what you're doing. And that's the big project. What is our long-term plan, and are we managing our time well? Let's go to Google Alerts. Y'all need to know this. I'm specifically in database in this one, but I also use it for updates for real estate, for sharing updates on real estate. So you'll see right here, it says Google Alerts. Well, I've actually pulled it up. And if you go to Google Alert or google.com/alerts, you can create an alert. Now, this alert will be emailed to you first thing in the morning, and it looks exactly like this. And it's got a bunch of information that Google pulls in and sends to you. Now, in my alerts, I have Orlando developments. If GPS Global Partners shows up, I get notified. If my name shows up, I get notified. Real estate breaking news, real estate updates, and U.S. housing market, because these are topics I'm very, very engaged with. So every day at 6 a.m., Google sends me Florida overtakes New York as second most valuable home. What stress commercial real estate means for those exposed bank stocks, commercial real estate insights, U.S. housing market. And you see how it breaks it down into different groups. Here's why this is so valuable. I have one in there that says Orlando, so I can actually curate information about what's happening in Orlando, and Google does it for me, and it delivers it to me first thing in the morning, so I can actually work on that. If there was something relevant to send out to my database that's in my Orlando market where I live, wouldn't it be great to have that information and then be able to, when I'm working on my business, I could send to them very easily in my 30 minutes of follow-up with that I need to do. I could say, well, here's a great article that just came out. Here's a link to it, but I thought you'd like this because of this. And I was just thinking about you, Chris, because she's top on camera right here. And I thought it would be helpful for me to send this to you. Sending out that value creates a relationship where I'm an expert, I'm trusted, and I am communicating to her. Why not use those tools to help you? Okay. I'm going to go back to, I covered that one. I want to go back to the next one. And this is open houses. If this is what you choose. Now, open houses, you're really getting screwed. It's actually 16 hours of hard work you'd have to do. But this is literally for 15 hours a week. And I promise you that if you do this 20 weeks a year, not 40, Tiffany, if you want 40 closings, you do this 40 weeks a year. I mean, seriously, this is your 15 hours worth of work every year. Now, I use your number as an example, but if your number is 20, if you do 20 weekends of this, it's 1 hour to find the house. It's 1 hour to prepare, change the documents, flip them over. Everybody has all the tools with the honey look boards, everything else. It's really cut and paste most of the time. There's not much to it. 3 hours of door knocking, 1 hour of setting up that first day, 4 hours in the open house. Why would you do it 3 if you can be there for 4 and you're wanting to talk to people? 30 minutes of follow-up. The next day's 30 minutes of setup, 4 hours of open house, 30 minutes of follow-up, and 30 minutes of breakdown. This is duplicatable and this is purposeful. In fact, this is what a schedule looks like if you're doing an open house. The days you do that are flexible. Well, let's go to prospecting. This one's pretty straightforward too. If you're prospecting 5 days a week, 30 minutes is on mindset and script practicing, 2 hours of calling with 20 conversations, and 30 minutes of follow-up. Now, that works. I'm here to tell you that works because I've actually done the open house, I've done the database, I've done all of them at some point in my career, and I guarantee you every one of these works. The challenge we keep coming to that all of us face is, do we know exactly how much we're worth every day? And are we putting that into play? Now, my dear friend Chris, if I can bother you for a minute, you are much more engaged and your business has really come from social media, I believe Instagram predominantly. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay. Now, I've always been an advocate. I have to get this off my chest just because this is who I am. I'm like, social media is not a lead generation platform. It does not work. That's not the way to do it. But then what I'm gonna edit that, and I want your help with it. If you're purposeful and you actually know your big project objective, if somebody were to invest 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year, and they were on point, and they had, like, I know you've got a diagram of what you do, of who and why and what, there's missions to it. Would you say, as a social media expert, if they invested 3 hours working, would most people be able to reach their goals if they were on point and really doing the work?
Absolutely, especially as a new agent trying to reach people organically.
Wow. Okay. Now, I already know that you're an expert at this, so I'm just gonna let everybody else know she's flat out. She's great at this stuff. And between her and a couple others that are partners with us, they have changed my mind on social media, because I was of the pigeon-headed idea that you can't just post on Facebook, I am a realtor, call me. Actually, you can't. Don't do that. That doesn't work. But we've talked, and we're going to talk more in Las Vegas, definitely, because I want to get inside of what your work world looks like and how your mindset is. Which is, by the way, why we go to Las Vegas. We get to meet with people that are better than us and actually learn from them, because we all share. So thank you, Chris. I'm going to be selfish on our walk if we're going to do one. And if not, I'll be selfish over a cup of coffee. But either way, George is going to be selfish. Thing is, and this is to you, if you were standing over somebody's shoulder, Chris, and you had 3 hours, is there almost a repetitive boredom to doing it, where it's not like you have to create what to do every day, but you really kind of do the same things, perhaps some variations, but is there a system to it, I guess is the best way.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely a strategy and a system that's duplicatable.
So in your success on social media, because I know that's a big deal for a lot of people, you just kind of threw shit on the wall and see what sticks. You know what? Today I don't feel like it. Today I do. And maybe I'll post about a dog today. I mean, you didn't have a plan or anything, did you?
I absolutely had a plan. And then there's
Oh.
a plan within the plan. And then that changes depending on who's following me, depending on the needs that I hear about people, depending on what I'm seeing on their social medias.
Got it. Thank you very much. What I wanted more than anything, you gave us in spades, and that's validation that, and I couldn't write it myself. And I'm sure that at some point it's out there, you can do it. I love YouTube. I've been very, very engaged in that. And I will tell you and that's considered social media. I will tell you there is an absolute structure, there is an absolute plan, and I am following the advice of people who have gone before me who are better than I ever could be. And the learning curve is like this. It's just ramping up. And even in social media or for sale by owner, or excuse me, prospecting or any other form of lead generation you're going to take on, I'm going to challenge you, particularly our emerging agent partners. And remember, 80% of the homes that are sold 5 years from now, the agents aren't even licensed yet. You literally are the real estate industry that's coming. Okay. And we believe in you more than you believe in you, because you just don't know what you can do yet. I guarantee you, you have to have structure. You have to have time management. Now I'll tell you a personal story. Chris, thank you so much, by the way. That was just awesome. God bless you. She's amazing. You're the bomb. Here's the thing, and please let this sink in. When I got into real estate, I had no options. I was, my wife we had a brand new baby mortgage. We had an infant and a 2-year-old. My wife was not working. My health insurance came from my business. I made about $75,000 as a general manager of a high-end seafood restaurant in the area, and that was it. And I left because, well, Dave Jenkins, who was the vice president, is just a really piece of shit person, in my opinion. And I can base that on solicitation of 18-year-olds and him being 65. He's probably dead at this point, so I'm cool saying it. Anyway, bottom line is, I just couldn't work in that environment. It didn't work out for me. It was against everything that I believed in. So I had to get into something. I got into real estate. I talked to the person who was the best real estate agent. Again, catch this. I went and I seeked out somebody who's good at it, and they told me this is what you need to do. Or I seeked out an expert on YouTube, or I seeked out an expert in prospecting, or I seeked out an expert in open houses. I seeked out advice on what I wanted to do, and they told me what to do. And as opposed to recreating the wheel, which is my nature, I actually just did what they said. They said, you need to be on the phone 3 hours a day calling for sale by owners, expires, and withdrawals in that exact order. He actually said the other, he didn't say expires, withdrawals. He just said for sale by owners. So I did that, and I closed 26 homes my first year, 28 homes my second year, and 31 homes my third year, somewhere in that ballpark. And they were almost 100% from for sale by owners. Here's the thing. Did I do it every single day? Absolutely not. I averaged probably 3 days a week. But when I did it, I was on the phone for 3 hours, and I was calling and I was dialing quickly. We didn't have dialers at that point, but I would speak to 12 or 13 people the first hour. I'd speak to around 10 the second. I'd speak to around 7 the third. And I knew my schedule, and I knew what I was going to do. And I was purposeful because I didn't have a choice. I had to be successful, and I had to have some blind faith. Now, did I get creative in there? Absolutely, I did. Did I do things that others didn't do? 100%. I didn't just make the calls. I found a place where I knew a window when nobody else was calling them, and I actually capitalized on that because I wasn't satisfied with just being the average, but I wanted to take a platform that was a proven model prospecting platform, 3 hours a day, and then I enhanced it after I walked a mile in the footsteps. Never changed my calling schedule, never changed my calling times, and I did what worked. And I want to challenge y'all that with these numbers, and some of you have some awesome numbers, I love it. It's going to take some effort, but more importantly, it's going to take a schedule. Success in real estate, and this is 2 decades worth of history here, I'm telling you, and a ton of coaching people, is being comfortable with repetitious boredom. Now, Chris, I consider you a success, and I would love to get your feedback and anybody else that would validate this, that it is 100% about doing the same thing over and over again, and it does get kind of boring. Is that a fair statement?
I think the word is consistency. It's the same as if you're in the gym. The more you show up, the more repetitions. It's like a snowball effect.
Well, I've been a member of my gym now for 1 year, and just yesterday I went down there to see why the hell it wasn't working for the first time, and I'm just not satisfied with it. I'm paying for it, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do. The point is, if you're not doing it every day, you're not going to see it. If you're not, the consistency is mission critical. So I covered 3 different ways at which you can go about building a 3-hour workday. Now, does that mean that you're done after 3 hours? Absolutely not. But here's the thing: if you protect those 3 hours, and that's the rest of this call, if you use tools to help you in those 3 hours, those 3 hours will generate 90% of your family's security, of your financial well-being, of the fact that's where you're going to earn your money. That's why I said, you take what you want to do. Somebody put down 40, that's 400, the same as Tiffany. That's $1,666 for a 48-week work week, working 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. I will tell you that for me to come up with this one, I did a 40 week, I want to take 3 months off a year. So I did a 40-week work week, and I only work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's why mine's higher. But it's the same as y'all's. We're all shooting for the same thing, but I better be really productive on that. 3,750. Chris, I figured she was looking over to go, what was the number? I didn't see it. All right, let's talk about a couple other things that are going to be important for you in time management. Then we're going to open it up. First up, and we kind of covered this. What are your priorities? Is doing this is a success the absolute thing that you have to have within reason, not compromising family, not compromising if you're the parent of children? Let's be clear, that's the number one priority. And if your child needs attention and needs to get to school, as Tiffany's does, I don't know if y'all notice this, but there's no question about it. At 8:30, 8:35, she has to leave because she has to get her daughter to the bus and make sure that's safe. That's a non-negotiable. It's just part of her schedule. And that's cool. You have to make sure that your priorities are still the number one priorities you have. But I want to ask you this: do you have the tools that are supporting you? When you're working, is your environment supporting you? Do you have distractions that show up? Is your computer set to go ding every time an email comes in? Is your phone on vibrate? Or now, if you have an iPhone, it's on do not disturb. And you can set that for the 3 hours, and it'll do that every day. It'll just turn it notifications off, so that doesn't get in your way. If you've got a job to do, let's do it really well. And what you're going to find, and I'm going to venture this, what you're going to find is that you're exactly like me. When you realize, oh my God, it's not working as high as I want to, I've got to come up with something. After I'm done with my 3 hours, I start doing what I call WOB work, working on my business work. What can I do to make it better? How can I make this more productive? How can I increase my conversions? Sometimes in my world, it was script practicing. In my world, it was finding out why I wasn't getting my list of for sale by owners, because at that point I would actually pay for somebody to curate a list for me. Why I wasn't getting them. So I did some more research. Thing is, I knew what I had to do, but I didn't stop doing that. I just stopped being satisfied that I was doing all I could do. And I started doing things that improved myself. For all of us out there, one of you is going to run into this very soon. You're going to have a listing presentation and you don't have a pre-listing package. That's not what you do within the 3 hours. This is what you do after to make it better, to make your conversion better. If you go on 4 listing appointments and don't get any of them, you probably need to practice. Or after you've done 3 hours of hard work, why don't you start practicing that? Your 3 hours are your golden time. That's the time you're going to work and do really 90% of the heavy lifting. The creative side that I think everybody here has, you can explore that creative side afterwards. If you start calls at 9 o'clock, you're literally done at noon. Now, I'm going to venture that most of us, because you're all here, we're up at 7:30, 7. I'm up at 5 every morning. Y'all want to have a conversation at 5:30 every morning? I go for a walk every morning at 5:30. I'm literally for a walk for an hour. I'm yours anytime. And I mean that sincerely. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, your business, that I would love to do. Up at 2:30, Chris. Okay. That's just showing off is what that is. You know, she said up at 2:30 on the chat. That's just, I mean, there's no need for that. In fact, those of you who are here early, and I'm truly grateful and I'm honored that you're here early to listen to me talk. But what I want you to do, because I really know you're a night owl, is text her at 2:30 and say, are you up yet? Are you up yet? Just before you go to sleep. Okay. I'll even write you a pass that says, please excuse whoever this is from tomorrow's mastermind call. Chris is like, do it. This is why at 5 o'clock in the morning or 2:30 in the morning in Las Vegas time, which is 5:30 our time. Last time we were out there, Chris and her significant other, we were going for this incredible long walk. We walked for 10 miles. It was awesome. It was just awesome. I'll do it again. I do it every day that I'm there. Anyway, your morning hours, you got to protect them. You just have to protect these times. Again, with concessions for family. Tiffany has responsibilities here every day of the week for us, which is awesome. And I'm truly grateful, Tiffany. Thank you very much for being here and chaperoning this. And I know she's also working on other projects and other things while she's there, but there's always somebody here to make sure that we've got what we need, which is awesome. But from 8:50 or 8:35 to 8:45, nothing gets in the way. And that is protected time. It doesn't sound like it, but it is. And you get the ability to do the same thing. But don't shortcome it. Because she's here doing this doesn't mean that's done. She's really not done. I happen to know this until about 2 o'clock. And then it's appointment time and stuff like that. But her working on her business, perfect world, is really from around 10:30 to 2, including a lunch in there. And since we're getting to that point, if any of you do get invited over to Tiffany's house for Thanksgiving, I'll let you know that your responsibility is to bring a bottle of alcohol. It doesn't matter what kind. That's how she stocks her bar for the remaining part of the year. And I have seen the spread, yet not been invited. It looks amazing. Just throwing it out. You may want to consider going to Virginia. And then you get to hang with Master Chief as well, which is pretty cool too. And Clark's there. All right. So more to it. I have distractions. See this thing right back here? My TV? That's a distraction. I even stupidly put TV because I use YouTube TV. So it's just as opposed to any other system. I even have it on my computer. Oh, hell no, that cannot go. My phone, I have literally built this area, which is just a freaking mess. You don't see that part of it. I built this so that there aren't any distractions. I have an Alexa. I won't say the last part because she'll say something right here. But the screen's black on purpose because I don't want to see anything that pops up there. I just need it for support if I need an answer. I have 3 monitors that I use, and I bring them down when I'm working to 1 monitor only on purpose. Can you do that, Joey? Can you really do that? Anything? I can change it to anything? Oh, forget it. Then Ziggy would work, but I'm Bowie, Talking Heads. I'm more Talking Heads. I mean, just that's Ziggy Stardust, not my world. But that's cool. They need to get it where I can call her anything or him anything I choose to. You have to minimize your distractions. This is a big deal for what your plans are, guys. Think about this. Everybody here, thank you that wrote them down, has a phenomenal. Really? Treasure Island? I just got that? I'll see you for Thanksgiving. I'm dead serious. Yeah, that's going to happen. So, everybody here has some really big goals. This is the conversation part. Are you putting in the 3 hours of work a day? And if you're not, what would it look like if you did? What would it look like if you did 60% of the time, which is really 3 out of 5 days? What would happen if you did it 80% of the time? I think everybody is going to be struggling with doing it 100% of the time consistently. I know I did for 3 years, and that's okay. It just makes you human. But if you put your head down and you get the work done, and you got your good tools you're working with, you're protecting your hours, you know when you're working, you've gotten the distractions away, in 4 out of 5 days, you do the work. What would happen to your business? And that's what I want everybody to volunteer and talk about. Remember, this is a very, very safe area. In fact, Tiffany, let's call it a day and turn off the recordings at this point. Awesome. Thank you.